This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
Got questions? We've got answers. Just send them to me, eric@artmarketing.com. By the way, a good website to check out, artmarketing.com. Okay, so I'm seeing these questions for the first time, so you may be stumping me. This comes from Amanda Murray Griffey, and the question is, how do I find my ideal client or audience? Well, it's a good question to be asking. So it's not easy. I'll tell you that. Here's how I do it, but it depends on where you are in your journey. So what I try to do, I don't always do this, and so people will hold my feet to the fire when I say this because I have not always done it. But I made an agreement with one of my art galleries. I was in 3. I'm about to be in 2 more. So I made an agreement and I said, listen, I want to be able to send a personal note or at least do a personal phone call to every person who ever buys my artwork. I will not try to sell them something else and go around you because that's important for them to understand. And so what I try to do is I always send a note thanking them for buying my artwork, a personal note, but I like to call them and thank them. And the reason I like to call them is because I want to know more about them. And I love it when the gallery will take a picture of them with my painting. Why? Because automatically I'm going to know, what age range are they? Are they elderly? Are they young? Are they, or whatever they are? That will help me understand them. And then I'm looking for patterns. If I get a chance to call somebody, I call and thank them, and I say, "Hey, tell me about yourself." And they'll say, "Well, we do this, I do this for a living, here are our interests," and things like that. So those give you clues, and you're constantly playing detective, and those clues will help you to really try and understand a little bit more about who your audience is. Now, I have changed my opinions about things. I'm like a politician who flip-flops, right? And the sense is that I used to always say, paint for the market. And if you're purely just trying to make a living and you want to sell a lot of artwork, then that's a really good answer. It's paint for the market. But what I think is more important is to paint for yourself, right? Paint what you love. Just because the gallery says, "Hey, we could have sold 500 more of those little red barns." If you're not into painting little red barns anymore, then paint what you love, because what you love will come across much better than anything else you can possibly do. If on the other hand, your option is to go do janitorial work or paint a few extra paintings that will sell because of the subject matter, at least you're painting, right? I have friends who actually paint for other artists. They paint them for other artists' commissions and things like that. Then the artist signs his name to them, which I think is a little weird. And maybe the artist paints on it so he can pretend not to be lying or something. But I mean, at least you're painting and you're generating income from painting rather than doing something that you'd rather not be doing. But I do think finding your ideal client is good. You can pay close attention to who follows you on social media, but anybody follows anybody, and it's hard to get any demographics from that. So the best way is to find out who's buying your work or who's interested in your work. And of course, if you have a gallery, ask them, keep an eye on who's buying my work, who's interested, who's buying other people's work. Try to find out, because maybe then what you can do is help your marketing appeal a little bit more to those people. Next question comes from Simon in the United Kingdom. Simon says, I wondered if you had some thoughts on how to market wall art, originals and prints, for sales at shows and exhibitions for someone who wishes to step away from using social media. Many traditional marketing channels seem to have become less popular and less available, and social media is awash with pictures. What channels, maybe some novel ones, may be available so that the message gets noticed? Well, Simon, that's an interesting term. I think that must be a term you use in the UK. wall art. We would just call it art, but art that hangs on a wall makes sense. Um, well, I don't think there are a lot of channels. I'm always looking for new ways to sell things, but think about the channels. The channels are art galleries, art shows, or art fairs. These are the shows that, like, I'll be going to Art Palm Beach in February, and that's a big art show. And it's basically like a shopping mall filled with art from really, really high end art dealers. And it's a really great show. There's dozens of those. So that's an option for you, but you're going to have to work through a dealer unless you can get your own booth, which you might be able to do, but it's a big investment. And then, okay, so then there's art fairs. Art fairs would be the ones with tents, every city has one. And so selling in art fairs. And if you're selling in art fairs, you got to have a little bit of a different strategy, I think, because you're less likely to sell as many originals as you're more likely to sell prints. And a lot of friends of mine do this, and they have prints out there. They sell an occasional original, but most of them sell prints. And, they'll sell 50 or 100 prints in a day for anywhere from 25 to 55, $75. And so they're making some good money, and it helps them pay their bills. And so that works out pretty well. So, okay, we covered shows and fairs. Then, of course, there's art galleries. I think art galleries are terrific because art galleries can be selling while you sleep, right? Because let's say you're in England, if you have an art gallery, a couple art galleries in the United States, they're literally open when you're sleeping, right? But you can have art galleries anywhere, and they're out there promoting your work along with other things. And you're in an environment where people are coming in to look at art, and so they're more interested in art. In terms of uh, uh, many of the traditional marketing channels becoming less popular, I'm not sure what is driving that thought process. Maybe you're seeing something I'm not seeing. The reality is that some art galleries do great, some are not doing great. A lot of that has to do with the art gallery themselves. A lot of it has to do with the art that's in the gallery. But in general, I think, galleries are a great option if you can get into them and get invited into them. Social media, you say it's a wash with pictures. Yes, it is. And, people are flipping through pictures quicker than they could clicking a clicker on a slideshow. They're going back and forth, up and down. So you got to have something that's going to catch their attention. And if you have followers, just remember that if you're on Instagram, Facebook, etc., um, only 3% of the people that follow you are actually seeing what you post because they don't send it to everybody. Only if there's engagement. So one of the best ways to engage people is to comment. And rather than, just trying to figure out how to drive people to your website, see what people are doing on other social media accounts, and then do smart comments on it, and then they'll look you up, and then they'll see your work. Now that might be another way to do it. One thing that is not being taken well advantage of that is a great opportunity is LinkedIn. There are a lot of art forums on LinkedIn. There are a lot of people who are selling and buying art on LinkedIn. So I think that's terrific. And of course, Etsy is a great opportunity, and maybe to some extent eBay. I see artists selling paintings on both of those platforms all the time, and I think those are really terrific platforms. And there are other ones out there. There are some that I think you can put your work into. Maybe even things like Walmart.com. I'll double check that. I don't know that for sure, but there's a lot of different places, and it's a lot of these things are price sensitive depending on where you're going, but a lot of them are not. So I wouldn't worry about that. Just, I would say don't tell yourself any stories, right? I just had a big meeting with somebody and they're like, oh, nobody's buying this anymore and we should change it. And I said, no, that's just not true. We're just not reaching enough people. Right. So you get to the point where you feel like you've saturated everything, and that might be a story, or it might be related to something else. Like, I don't know about the UK, but here in the United States, the economy's been pretty awful. Right. And it's been awful for 3 years, and everybody's been lying to us and telling us how good it is, but it isn't. And so every business owner I know is suffering. I was on a forum, a podcast the other day from some advertising agencies, and they were talking with one another, or 40 or 50 of them, They're all talking about how bad business was. So, you know, it's sometimes things are cyclical. You should have a strategy, and we're going to give you a recession strategy when I do the art business mastery day on January 10th. You want to be sure to attend that. It's only $45, and we have people already signed up from all over the world. And if you can't watch live, then you can get a replay package and watch on replay. But we want you to be there if you can be live. That'll be good. But so you said the last part of the question is what other channels, maybe some novel ones, may be available so that the message gets noticed. Listen, Simon, the message gets noticed when the message is compelling, right? In an email, everybody raise your hand if you know this. The number one thing on an email success factor is what? The number one thing on the success of an email is the subject line. Do you know what the number two thing is? It's called the alt text. That's that little text that you see after the subject line. So those are the first things that make you decide if you're going to open an email. So they got to be attention getting and grab you. The next thing is once they open the email, you got to have a really strong, compelling headline, a really great image, a great caption, a caption that's interesting. Then you got to have a really great first paragraph. And then that's got to lead you down, pull you through to a really great second paragraph and so on. Those things make all the difference in the world. And in marketing, attention getting is the whole game, right? So Jaguar, which you're familiar with because it's from the UK, has just done this controversial campaign using a lot of very colorful people. And it really rocked a lot of people, got people talking about it. And whether or not it's effective was yet to be determined. I think it's going to be highly effective because they got people talking about them and they got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of free media time from other people talking about them. Now everybody's curious about this new Jaguar, right? So whether or not it was a good move, I think it was a good move because they were being controversial. They got, you know, there are people out there that get people to talk about them. You know, they say things that are wild and crazy, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about them. That's how you get free media, is by coming up with messaging that gets noticed. Now, you have to manage what's appropriate for your reputation, but you can get noticed by them. Anyway, I hope it helps, and I hope you guys will consider attending this event. I think it'll be helpful. By the way, Mondays at noon, yeah, that is Eastern time, New York City time, I do Art Marketing Mondays, and that's on my YouTube show. Just go to YouTube and look up Art School Live, okay, and watch it on Monday. Well, that is the Art Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.